welcome back to my channel. We're here today with another Booklist Thursday video because we've missed a few weeks. I've been busy reading, not just talking about books that I have or haven't read. But now we're back to book lists because it's one of my favorite things to do. I enjoy a list about books almost as much as I enjoy the books themselves. Sometimes the scales tip. But in any case, we're here today with a list that comes from Bookmarks Magazine, and I get these magazines compliments of my husband because he subscribes on my behalf, and so every couple of months another installment of Bookmarks Magazines comes, and I'm always excited to pour through the magazine, flip through the pages, and sometimes share the content with you guys. So thank you so much for being here. If you are new to my channel, we do Booklist Thursdays here. We go through a list of books. A list of books that someone else has curated quite often, and we see how many of the books we've read. I'll tell you my score, and hopefully you'll tell me your score, and we'll see how many more books we need to read. Like, this is a motivation to read more. It is not a brag, it is not a boast, it is motivation to read more. I'm always looking for that. So yeah, in this installment there's an article about books and movies, book to movie adaptations. It is entitled A Novel Approach to Cinema, which I love puns. I think that's funny because it's a book to movie adaptation. I may be one of the few people, but I enjoy watching the movie first. I've seen that, I've done that with a couple of movies. I watched Gone Girl, the movie, first before I read the book, and I thought both were excellent. I thought the movie was fantastic, and when I went and read the book, I feel like the people who played those characters, they were people in my head as I was reading the story, but I got so much more out of the book that I didn't mind knowing how the movie ended. It's not identical to how the book goes, but they're two different products as far as I'm concerned, and I like both, but I prefer, if I'm going to watch a movie adaptation, I prefer to watch the movie first. Just because I feel like books are always better. That's why we're here at BookTube. But I think you can get both. I think you can get something out of both versions. So yeah, that also happened with The Godfather. Mario Puzo's The Godfather. I think I watched the movie first, and then I read the book. And I love both. So here are some books that have been made into movies, and there's actually an instance here of a movie that was made into a book, which I've never heard about, but I'm sure it happens. I know it happens, but I can't think of any examples right now. Maybe you can. Let's chat about that in the comments. So in this article, they're talking about a movie, Heat. Director Michael Mann was at work on a sequel to his wildly popular film Heat, which I don't know anything about it, but if you do, let's chat. And it said the movie was received with great enthusiasm. And then he started working on a film called Heat 2, but it would not be a film, it would be a novel. So Heat 2 is Mann's first novel. So the movie director, is writing a novel called Heat 2, which is being co-written with another author, and it is a prequel and a sequel, and they're talking about that. And I thought that concept was pretty fantastic, that you take a movie and give the characters literary value, literary quality, literary experiences. I love that as a concept. I don't know anything about this movie, this franchise. Maybe I'll check that out at some point. But Heat 2, it's a new book. It's a new book, but it says it debuted at the top of the New York Times bestseller list, and the reviews have been generally good. So if you've read it, give yourself a point. Heat 2 is the first book in this list. Don't know anything about it. Otherwise, Metropolis. Sometimes I have difficulty with those words. Metropolis is a science fiction novel from 1925, and there's also a film made in 1927. I think this backstory is a little fun too, because the author is Thea von Harbo, and she wrote the book, and her husband Fritz Lang made the movie. That's pretty cool. So Metropolis, if you've read that book, give yourself a point. Another book is The Shape of Water from 2017. Guillermo del Toro collaborated with Vanessa Taylor on the screenplay, and he was exchanging notes with Daniel Kraus for the novel of the same name, and Kraus and Del Toro are credited as co-authors of the novel. I think that's fun. So if you've read The Shape of Water from 2017, give yourself a point. So those are three novels that I've never heard anything about, but that are in this article. Other titles are a lot more familiar. Breakfast at Tiffany's, Truman Capote, I have read. If you've read that, give yourself a point. Catch 22 by Joseph Heller is on my TBR this year. Haven't gotten to it yet. Maybe. I don't know if I'll get to it this year. I really don't know at this point because we're in November now. But no, I haven't read it. So if you have, give yourself a point. One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest by Ken Kesey is also on my TBR this year. Haven't gotten to that either. So give yourself a point if you've read it, because I feel like most people have probably read that book. Larry McMurtry's The Last Picture Show. Not on my list this year because I think I have to get to his most popular work, which is Lonesome Dove, first before I can get to this. This is like level 2 or level 3 of my TBR. If one day I'll explain the levels, guys. So no, I haven't read it, but if you have, give yourself a point. James Baldwin, If Beale Street Could Talk, was made into a movie a few years ago. I haven't seen the movie, but I did read the novel. So give yourself a point if you've read that one. Then Stephen King wrote a novella called Rita Hayworth and the Shawshank Redemption. No, yeah, it doesn't say the on the cover. Do you see that? So this is the cover of the book. Apparently this is the cover photo. And then this is the title that they use in the article. And so the article says the, but there's no the on the cover. I look for things like that. I'm a nerd. Yeah, so Rita Hayworth and the Shawshank Redemption was written, I think, after the film was made. Yeah, so Stephen King. Oh no. Oh no, okay. No, that's not true. So Stephen King's novella came out in 1982 and the movie came out in 1994. Okay, that makes sense. But the ending of the novella and the movie are different, so that's good to know as well. So I'm just glancing through the article as I read it. As I skim over it to you, I'm actually reading a few things. So it says, as with One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, the endings to book and film diverge, which I think is fun. I think it's fun. You get two productions because quite often in stories, there are multiple ways that a story could wrap up, right? Otherwise, it wouldn't be a story. And so I love that they give you two different versions, two different experiences. So do you want this to happen? Go watch the book. Do you want this to happen? Go watch the book. I just said that, right? If you want this to happen, go read the book. If you want this to happen, go watch the movie. Yeah, okay. So if you've read Rita Hayworth and the Shawshank Redemption, give yourself a point. No points for just watching the movie, because I've watched the movie and I'm not getting a point. Anyway, The Color Purple by Alice Walker. Again, I've seen the movie and I saw the movie first. I saw the movie years ago. It came out in 1985 and I think I saw the movie now. I lived in Jamaica in the 80s and 90s and early 2000s. So, well, I left Jamaica in 2001. But yeah, we're a couple of years behind when it comes to movies. So by the time I watched the movie on television, I didn't go to a cinema or anything like that. We didn't have a DVD or anything. I watched it on TV, which means that it was probably years old when I watched it. But I did watch the movie The Color Purple a long time ago, and then I finally read the novel about 5 years ago or so. So I know I watched the movie before I read the book, but I've read the book, The Color Purple by Alice Walker. So give yourself a point if you have too. Wonder Boys by Michael Chabon. I have not read and don't know much about it. It is farce. Spirit of bittersweet farce and beguiling profusion of detail. I like that. Yeah. It doesn't seem like this reviewer had good things to say about that movie though. But yeah. Gone Girl by Gillian Flynn is on here. I read the book, like I said, and so I get a point. And if you have, give yourself a point too. To All the Boys I've Loved Before by Jenny Han, I read. When I came onto BookTube, I read a lot of YA books to keep up with the YA reading community that I was following at that point. A lot of the people that I followed when I joined BookTube read a lot of YA and science fiction, fantasy, and contemporary romance for young adult readers. And, I tried. I read some of those books, but, those are not my go-to. That's not my go-to reading. But I enjoyed this. I enjoyed Jenny Han's writing. I also read another series from her called The Summer I Turned Pretty, I think is the first book in that series. I read those books. Yeah. I like them. But those are not the books that I gravitate towards. Let's just say it like that. So yeah, there is a list. So those are the books that appear in the article, and then there's a list down here of further reading. So here are more titles. Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen, I have read. Little Women by Louisa May Alcott, I have read. Goodbye Mr. Chips by James Hilton, I have not read. To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee, I'm going to say I haven't read because I started it a long time ago. I don't know if I ever finished it, but I must come back to it. I must read that book. I have 2 copies, I think. Harper Lee's To Kill a Mockingbird is on my TBR. I'm going to read it. I watched the movie. When I was in high school, I think, I didn't have to read the book for high school, but it was a popular book for high school students, and they would play the film version on TV, local TV in Jamaica, like all the time. So I watched the movie when I was a child, but I didn't have to read the book then. So I feel like I read it at some point. I know the story. I know I started reading it long there. I'm gonna read it. I'm gonna read it this time so I can actually say I've read it, because I have. Scratch all of that. The Outsiders by S.E. Hinton, I have not read. MASH, M-A-S-H, M asterisk A asterisk S asterisk H asterisk, I did not know was a book. I grew up hearing about the movie. We got a calendar one year when I was a child. We got a calendar that was a MASH calendar that showed scenes from the movie. I had no idea it was a novel. Just today. I was years old when I found out that MASH was a novel from 1968 written by Richard Hooker. Never knew that. Never knew that. The Godfather by Maria Puzo is on this list. The Silence of the Lambs. Oh, and I have read The Godfather. The Silence of the Lambs by Thomas Harris, I have not read. The Remains of the Day by Kazuo Ishiguro, I have read. It's a Booker Prize winning novel. Crazy Rich Asians by Kevin Kwan, I read. I was interested enough at the time. I said I would read more of the series. I haven't gotten back to them, so maybe I wasn't that interested. But I liked it. And Where the Crawdads Sing by Delia Owens, I have read. I know that is being made into a movie, or has been made into a movie, and I'd go see it. I'd watch it. I really liked the book when I read it. It hasn't aged well in my mind, because there were some problems with the main character, and the more I think about the book, is the less I think it's great, I guess is what I should say. But yeah, I read it, Where the Crawdads Sing. So those were 21 books in the article, plus 3 books at the beginning. So 24 titles that I just mentioned, and I've read 11 of them, which is less than 50%. So let me know if you got a better score than I did. But yeah, we're back for Booklist Thursday, and I hope you enjoyed this list. I hope you enjoyed this video. Give it a thumbs up if you did. Subscribe